Well, hello, everyone. It's another episode of Addressing the Elephant in the Room. And of course, we have our famous co-host, Jason. He is the author of Winning with Exceptional, and I'm going to say it, I'm just going to have a whole kind of fun with that today, aren't I? You have so many talents. I always move them all together. Jason, Exceptional Results Now, and a multitude of books. And he is going to be putting Tony Hardy from Canny Creative on the hot seat today with me. And my name's April Ballestero. I am the owner and coach of One Light Ahead and partner with quite a few other coaches, an opportunity to empower so many individuals to lead with exceptionalism, as well as to uncover their shining lights. As we like to say, we guide light bulb moments at One Light Ahead. With that being said, thanks to Tony Hardy with Canny Creative, we have learned our one line and our many other tools and resources to be and have an amazing website and presence because of Tony Hardy and Canny Creative. So, you know, I can't do much better an introduction than that, Tony, right?
Not really. That was a lot of use of my surname. I haven't been called Tony Hardy that many times since I left home.
Love that. Well, the exciting thing is you're on the hot seat today and you get to choose what is the elephant in the room today.
Okay, so I think I've been thinking about this. I think we talked about this in the past, but I think the thing I want to talk about is money. Mm-hmm. I think it's such a big topic that a lot of people are just so kind of scared to talk about, or generations before us have had real kind of difficulties talking about money. I just think there's so much to pick and deep dive there that's my elephant in the room.
And Tony, educate us on how your experience to speak about this, because remember, you get to be the hot seat, so you get to help us uncover the challenge of the elephant, and as we work through it, the opportunity, and as Jason digs in, and I might support a little along the way, is the opportunity to determine how we could start addressing it.
Okay, so I think there's loads of reasons. I think as a parent and as a son, as a pet, as a business owner, we come up against money things all the time. So I run a business, my dad runs a business. He hasn't put his prices up for 25 years, but by the same token, he doesn't talk about his friends, about how much he earns. And every time I tell him that, me and my best friend Joe, we were having a conversation about salary, he'll go, why are you talking to your friends about salary? Why are you talking to your friends about money? I just think there's like a real problem around money, and I don't know why. Like, for me, money makes the world go round, and I know that's like really kind of like, is it materialistic or consumer centric? But business, when we came to do the job for One Light Ahead together, we had to have a money conversation, and I like to have them early on, because I don't want to spend 45 minutes in our 3 hours writing proposals to then someone go, okay, we are like 10 times less than the budget you're proposing. I feel like to address it's going to be a big challenge. We just have to get quicker and better and more comfortable about talking about money. I don't mind sharing things like that.
That's quite a history to clarify. And there's so many different pieces of that puzzle. Jason, are you ready to dive in, or would you like me to set you up another time?
No, I think that, Tony, it's a great conversation to start. And the first question I have for you is, do you look at money as the primary source of wealth for people?
Okay, because of the way I'm wired, and I think if you asked any of my friends and family, they would definitely say yes, but that's just me personally. And I appreciate that others in the world would say love and value from friendships and relationships is all wealth. So I understand that approach as a business owner, and having 7 mouths to feed, if you want to put it that way, within the business, and then supporting the family. For me, like a lot of, don't know if I would see it as the primary wealth, but I think it's definitely a success factor that plays into it for me. Like that's, I think I appreciate the value and the wealth of other things, but I definitely think the business owner for that side of us feels like my wealth is wrapped up in how much we make.
So from the standpoint of money as a part of your success as a business owner, how do you have that conversation with people and make them understand the importance of money to what it is that you're doing?
In the sense of if someone comes to us for a project, or why I want to have that conversation early.
Start with why you want to have that conversation early.
I like to kind of just frame it as a benefit to everyone. So it's no good coming to us for a conversation about a brand and a website project if you've got £2,000. And if we go 2 hours to get to that end result, you've wasted 2 hours that you could be spending time looking for someone else. And we've wasted 2 hours on exactly the same. So I think framing it like, and I'm not saying you have to answer the phone and say, oh, by the way, how much money have you got? But I feel like 5, 10, 15 minutes into that very initial call, you could definitely be talking around the topic of, okay, where are we budget wise? Have we got something mutually agreeing here, or are we going to need to find you guys a freelancer to work with? And I think you can all benefit from just being frank and transparent as early as possible.
And from the standpoint of somebody working with your organization, what does that value of money do for them as well as for your organization?
I mean, can't comprehend the question. So the value of, run that by us again.
So when you have the conversation with somebody about money,
yeah,
there's an end value that they're getting for the money they're spending with you, and there's an end value that you're getting from the money that you're receiving from them.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is that value to you as the business owner?
So the value to us of their money.
Yeah.
Just the ability to, I guess money's kind of like the enabler, like in the weirdest kind of way. It's like they're kind of buying into a relationship in the sense of they're giving all their money and then we can start building a relationship. Without that, we're kind of never going to get it off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
The value to them is, I guess, the service we provide is they buy into the relationship and the relationship stems the end result.
Right. And what is the outcome that they're looking for that obviously this is a benefit to them?
So I guess there could be anything. So a company, say, a thing we're quite big on at Canny is lots of companies do websites, right? Websites are the easy-ish to build. Like the thing for me is websites that drive real business results, and most of the time that's profit, increased leads, increased turnover, more sales, more revenue. And so the end result for the people that come to us is always, it's like, we want to 10x our leads, we want to 5x our leads, because actually what that's going to do is add another £500,000 revenue to the business. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that's why people are buying into us, and that's what their money gets them, is the consultation, the expertise, and the support that brings those kind of lofty goals to life. So
would you equate money in your case with opening the doors to a more valuable relationship where your knowledge, expertise, and understanding of how to help people actually attract more money to them is really a part of the engagement, but you're basically creating the gateway to that engagement as the money that's necessary to have a real valuable conversation?
I think it's that like spending to accumulate thing where, okay, yeah, I guess I don't like the term gatekeeping, but unfortunately, like we've got bills to pay, so we have to charge money to make things happen. Our expertise is worth money. I definitely don't like the term gatekeeping, but when you frame it like that, it's quite interesting. So I don't know. Honestly, that question, not a clue.
Let me ask it a different way. If you were your own customer,
yeah,
and you were coming to you for services, and you understand that there's this upfront conversation that needs to be had.
Yeah.
What is the most important thing that's going to make you as a customer feel confident that working with Tony is going to, get me the results that I need to go on with my business.
So what's given the customer faith that we can do our job?
Mm-hmm.
Why would they part with their cash? I think it's just a case of like, one, we've got the evidence and the results to say, like, we've done this for businesses around the world, we can do it for you. And I think, like I say, it's that spending to, you've got to speculate to accumulate. And it sounds like, I mean, I feel like the way I'm talking, I run some sort of multi-level marketing scam, but it's not really. We actually run a genuine business, you know what I mean? But like the way, it's all just trust in, like, I love having those upfront conversations with people like, look, this is what we've done. We can show you loads of case studies, loads of examples. This is what you might want to consider. And I love the fact that they can turn around and say, oh, we've got a bit more budget than that. Or I like it when clients say, I've done some stupid things, like from a business perspective, because I like to try and be more personable. Like, oh, we don't actually have £20,000 or $30,000, but we've got 10. What can we do with that? A lot of businesses would turn around and say, actually, well, our minimum's like 20 or it's nothing. Like, from a business owner perspective, I like the fact that I can turn around and say, actually, I see real value in helping this organization and business with what they've got. And then I like the fact that over 3 to 5 years, you've actually made back the money you've lost by like tenfold. Like, you don't have to be like, that's why I don't like the term gatekeeping, because I think it's not like, okay, it's £20,000 or you're out. I think it's like, okay, what can we do around and then build you back up to where we need you to be? And I think like money's a good kind of sum of how you get around that.
And Tony, I'm going to interrupt for just a second and let Jason keep digging. Yet I want to clarify for the audience a couple of things, knowing you personally as well as knowing the opportunity to dig in a little deeper. The first one is Tony, you operate in the UK. So every time anyone listening from the other side of the world, or as you call it, across the pond, is, operate in different currencies factors. But with that being said, what you are operating from, your foundation is, what are the values that we're connecting on as partners? Because your company is partnership driven. And that's one area we completely connected in that partnership connection. And yes, we all resonate with the fact that, and I think this leads to where you started and where we're headed, is money is a tool, it's a resource, it's a bridge. And when you're talking about having that conversation, is verifying that we're both invested and committed. And I can tell you, having walked a long journey around that money awareness, and still, I think all of us, anyone listening, is still learning how to communicate and to have the language to speak around money, as you had said, because your father did not have all the language to say, how could I be comfortable sharing that? That's like a taboo subject, where in your business, you've learned not to make it a taboo subject, but to make it a tool and a bridge. And maybe a bridge is a better way of saying it than a gatekeeper.
Yeah.
How do we walk this bridge? And may I meet you in the middle? Do I need to meet you in the middle? So 3 to 5 years, we're both succeeding together. And
I think succeeding together is a great kind of thing for it. It's like, you're right, it's more a bridge than a tool. And also, I've just realized, like, starting with money and actually having no context about the partnership side for Canny probably paints us in a really bad light. I just sound like I'm just like hoarding all the money in. But you're right, it is like, as we're embarking on this journey together, do we need to come down to meet you? Can you do a bit more to meet us? And then actually, can we both profit and realize those results together?
Yeah. So Tony, part of the reason, and you're doing a great job, by the way, because again, that's why we call it the hot seat. You are squirming around, which is a good sign. But the importance is that for our listeners, you brought up the number one topic and fear, especially right now during this world crisis pandemic. A lot of people are not having honest conversations with themselves about money. And I'm sure in your business, your conversations with a lot of people are very uncomfortable because people want to do things. They want to make money, but the difficulty is that they're not being honest with themselves. And so therefore, when you present that conversation right up front, I'm sure it is an uncomfortable conversation for a lot of people.
It can be.
And so therefore, the next question I have for you is, when somebody, is uncomfortable with that conversation, how do you, um, understand that this is a difficult conversation, that, they need your help to, really understand what the importance of having this conversation is, to your team as well as to them?
So we kind of, obviously difficult. We work with a range of clients, and some clients find it a lot more difficult to talk about money than others. So what we found is owner operated companies, or people where they're really in charge, or we're talking directly with the founder or the CEO, they are quite like, they find the money conversation difficult because they appreciate what we do and they know they need it. But at the end of the day, they're spending their hard earned money. So it's always a more difficult conversation there. Whereas our more primary clients are marketing managers, marketing directors who work underneath someone else, and basically they get a budget. So as long as you say to them, it's £20,000 and they look and they've got £30,000 budget, they don't really care as much. And the money conversation is a lot easier to have with those people because they're spending other people's money. So for those clients, money discussion is not a problem. Back on the founder CEO side of things, so what we always kind of come up with the objection of like, oh, we haven't really thought about the budget. We don't know what sort of budget we're working with. And then I kind of like to call, like, I don't believe that, because I don't feel like you go to a professional branding agency not having thought about how much that might cost. So the way we kind of handle those discussions are, okay, well, we appreciate you don't have the exact pounds and pence or dollars and cents on the project, but our projects typically start at $35,000, and then instantly from there you can normally gauge, oh, that's more than we thought. Okay, well, we could maybe do this for $20,000. Oh yeah, that's more like it. And you can gently coax that discussion along. You don't have to be like, right, what's your budget? So that's how we handle that. Or the alternative is, what is this problem solved worth to you? So you've got a big problem, your website attracts no traffic and you're spending money on your website hand over fist. How much is that costing? All right, it's costing £1,000 a month and we're getting nothing from it. Okay, well, if we could do it for £1,500 a month, but you are making 10 times more than you are now, would that be better? Oh yeah, of course it would. So there's a million ways to frame the money discussion to make it easier for people.
And once you have that discussion from the standpoint of the owner operator, let's work with them first.
Yeah.
What is the satisfaction that comes after having that conversation, for them as well as you? Is there a sense? Give me a sense of what happens afterwards. What feelings do they have?
So I think it's nice when they realize they have a problem that's costing them money. They come to us and we say, okay, this is going to be an expensive fix. Like, there's no two ways around it. It's going to cost quite a lot of money to invest in this to get it right. But I think the relief comes for them when actually, it doesn't actually cost them as much as they thought. And when you frame it, like I just said, about, okay, this is costing you £1,000 a month now, but if we spent £1,500 a month, we could make it like, it would be more expensive in the short term, but you'd return quicker. I think they always actually, you can put the other side of the brain on and go, yeah, short-term pain for long-term gain. Yeah. And I think that's always satisfying. And then once the project's seen through and they go, actually, this guy wasn't just talking a load of hokum, and they got, actually, this is really working for us. That's always like kind of a magical moment, like this website's actually now generating real business results.
So going back to the fact that you didn't like the word gatekeeper, but to our listeners, they probably feel that way with their money. But the truth is that, April brought up the idea of it being a bridge and money as a tool. it really becomes your responsibility to reframe them from their own view of money being, a gatekeeping conversation. And
Yeah.
I think that that's, what you're really presenting is the fact that by having the conversation about money up front, you're making everybody aware of the obstacle that is in front of people with their own money. So is this something that you have personally experienced that made you, because you talk about your father, but is there an experience that made you realize that getting past this obstacle and really building the trust and the relationship is important to, have that conversation up front?
I think actually that's a really good question. But yes, also. So I think what I learned quite early on is, so yeah, our projects work in a way where you'll have the initial branding and website project, and then what happens is you kind of end up on a track of, okay, we're on a retainer now and we can do the design work we want to do. What I find when you kind of remove money from the equation early with that, so say, let's take April, for example. If April's spending, say, $3,000 a month retainer with us, what that means is they can, one night ahead, can get as frank and as honest as they want about everything, because essentially they can say, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to do that. And they're not always thinking in their mind, oh, how much is this going to cost? Because they're on the retainer, they can let the thoughts flow freely. And you don't have to be going, oh, but that's going to cost an extra $100. That's going to cost another $200. So nobody's like, there's no judgment around that, because it's all being just taken care of at the start. So I feel like the discussions are much more organic once you've either had the money conversation and that's on the table, or you've removed it altogether by siphoning it into some sort of 30-hour retainer. And you can easily just get around the money thing. People can get more real about what they actually want, rather than saying, oh, we'll settle for a 4-page brochure, but really we wanted a 26-page brochure.
And do you find that once the conversation has been had, that the level of trust goes up or down significantly with clients, whether or not they use your services, or they say no, but they may have a conversation with you in the future?
I think it depends on how you handle that initial money conversation, because a lot of people, if you came to us and said, okay, branding and website project, that's what I need. And we said, okay, how much have you got? And you said to us, well, I've got $30,000. And we said, okay, well, that's how much branding and websites cost. That's going to always throw in the spanner of caution, because you are going to think in your head, oh, I could have said 20,000, and then they would have just said, oh, that's how much that's going to cost. So I think as long as you operate that first conversation with transparency, I feel like as a supplier, it's kind of in our remit to put the figures out first. Like, look, we can do this for this price or this for this price. And that almost like takes away the issue of like not trusting each other, because we've kind of laid our cards out before you've shown your hand. And I feel like that helps with that.
That's an interesting point. So in terms of how some people look at money, obviously now going back to your father and having the conversation of money, what I really understand you're saying is that by putting your cards on the table first, you lower the level of fear that somebody thinks that you're getting over on them.
Yeah, that's essentially the top and bottom of it. Because once you've said, actually, our typical projects are £20,000, people then know that if they've got 30,000, that you're not suddenly going to be going, actually, it's 30, and all of a sudden it's jumped up, because you can't just do that to people. People aren't stupid.
Yeah.
It's good to have that cards on the table approach, I think.
So do you think that when you look at the marketplace and the way in which your competitors in the marketplace are doing business, do you think that, part of the challenge that people have when they're looking for services is the fact that they're not only afraid of parting with their hard-earned money, but they're also concerned with whether or not they're really getting the most bang for their buck.
I think it's hard to talk about competitors because I don't know what anyone else is doing, because I've always kind of operated on the look after myself approach, and like there's enough business for everyone to go around. I'm not in the business of like burning buildings down to build the tallest building, to use a Gary Vee quote, I think. I think there's enough for everyone to go around. I've totally forgotten the question again. I'm awful. Sorry.
It's okay. It's just really what I'm getting to is, you know, the fact that people really are looking for how much can they leverage their dollar to the greatest, or their pound to the greatest ability. And is that part of the conversation to really have, is to understand, look, this is our service and we're going to do the best for you, because people are, you know, really looking at how they can stretch their money as far as possible.
I think you have to have conversations about goals early as well. Like, so I'm not in the business of saying, oh, well, we could do this for £10,000 in it, like, and then the next client saying, oh, we could do this for £12,000, because essentially, if it's the same, it's apples to apples. I think what you need to kind of get out is like, what is the problem we're going to solve here? And then you don't need to spend all of your £10,000 to solve this little problem. We could solve that with £500. But actually, have you thought about this repercussion and this repercussion? And what happens if you change the brand? Then, okay, we're going to need to change the website. Again, one like a heads case. We've got an amount of money. We want to do this. Okay, we've done the branding, but actually now there's like 3 courses. There's marketing materials that need to be designed. So that initial project's this much, but we need to leverage more money, or we need to save a bit here to make it last a bit longer to do more with. I think that sort of conversation needs to happen early. You can't just go in. And again, this is where the partnership thing works with us, is like, you have to almost go in looking at a 6 to 12 month plan, rather than a, oh, here's a branding project, 4 weeks, see you later, I will never speak again.
And Tony, I'd love to add and go into that next layer. And I love how you just said that, because so many people enter into that transaction mindset of, this is just a transaction. And all of us that want to be in business for a long time recognize that it is a relationship concept. It is an opportunity to invest in the relationship, and money is one of the tools for that. With that being said, though, going back to your conversation with your dad and your friends and your et cetera, and how we address even that conversation, you know, there are people that are comfortable sharing their bottom line. There are people that are comfortable sharing their balance sheet. There are people that are comfortable sharing, you know, lots of details and money. And a lot of that is because that's the way they were taught. That's the way that they were taught to be purposeful. I mean, one of the heads of Keller Williams, Gary Keller, will talk about all of the numbers and how he looks at his numbers every day. And he communicates about that on a daily basis, because he recognizes the ability to be purposeful about that. So what I'm hearing you say, and I'm curious how you would address it with your in-house team, your family, your friends, and then your clients, of how you celebrate that opportunity to be purposeful about the long-term commitments and focus.
I think that's a really interesting feeding conversation. So our financial year ends in November. So we've just done the forecast for the next 3 years. And what we do is we've got like degrees of role here in the team. So Glenn, who we've worked with, and Will, who we've worked with, are obviously more senior, but they've got a junior each that work underneath them. And one of the juniors, Will Storer, works under Glenn. He's a junior designer, and he'd been at a firm with 150 employees. And then the other day we were screen sharing, because then still not back in the office because of COVID. And then I'd left our CRM system just open on the side. And then he like kind of goes, he's like, you know, the CRM's like open and I can see how much we're charging all of the clients. It's like, right. Well, are you not bothered by that? No, not at all, because like that's good that you're seeing that. You're seeing how we're approaching money. I want you to know how much we're charging our clients. Like, then you know how much time we're giving them. You know which clients are the big hitters, the big fish. You know who are quick in and out jobs. I think that sort of transparency is good. What we used to do, behind me, I used to have a big whiteboard on the wall, and I used to just write all the numbers up there every day and update them as I went. Obviously, we got a bit busy ourselves. I'll do it through technology now. But I like the team to know where we are as a company, and I think it's good for them to see, like, okay, the company are approaching £500,000 worth of turnover. Actually, what that means for us is we've got job security. We're going to have more people coming in. We're going to have more support. I think it's, and I don't drive around in like a Porsche or a Range Rover. I just drive a regular car. But I think I could take the Porsche out of the garage, but I don't. And I think it's nice to just, for the team and us to be, they know how much I take out of the business. Not many employees would probably know that of their employers, but I think that open, transparent relationships beneficial on multiple levels.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
So wrapping up, I think that what you just said is probably the most important part of the money conversation, is really people understanding the transparency of the money in the relationship. And that goes back to how people want to stretch their dollars. So, you know, from the standpoint of the original question I asked, which was, you know, do you look at money as wealth? I think that you've actually answered it completely differently now that we've passed the initial discussion of it. But it is a very important factor in how you're able to really build your wealth. Because if you don't have the conversation about money and really understand it and its value to creating the real wealth in your life, excuse me, it's a very, very difficult task or journey to create wealth if you're not having an honest and open conversation about money. So yeah, at that point, I mean, my last question to you, Tony, is that, you know, for our listeners, what is it that you would like them to, you know, really have a conversation about money with themselves that's important to you?
I think people should. I'm not a big believer in things like credit cards and like getting into debt for things you can't afford. So outside of business on a personal level, I think that conversation becomes even more important. I don't think people should enter into big credit agreements or finance agreements that actually in 5 years are going to bury them further under, because some of my friends, I want the latest PlayStation 5. Well, have you got £1,000 to buy one? Now I'm just going to slam it on a credit card. Yeah, but that £1,000 quickly going to become £1,500. Oh, and have you got £1,500 because 5 minutes ago you said you didn't have £1,000? Oh, it'll be fine. I'll sort it out in 12 months. I think the important, just be really honest with money. Like when you're going for professional services, they're going to cost, and you need to work out roughly how much you can afford to spend. And I don't advise people get into these agreements and end up in a hole. I think that's not nice, not natural, and people should be real with each other and just think about what the hell you're spending.
Awesome. All right. So April, do you want to wrap us all up?
Always. So the gift about addressing the elephant in the room is we get to bring on some amazing leaders in their communities. And Tony, share with everybody how they reach you, how they connect with you, and how they are able to have a valuable, transparent conversation with you.
If anyone wants to talk about money anytime,
Right.
I'm on all of the things. I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter, but mainly the website canny-creative.com. That's the best way to get hold of us.
Canny-creative.com. I love it.
Canny-creative.
And you're on LinkedIn and all kinds of fun social media platforms. You're on YouTube as well. And there's tons of things for them to get to know you beforehand on YouTube. And that's under Canny Creative as well.
It's
correct?
all under Canny Creative. Everything Perfect. We do.
And Tony, thank you for the gift of being with us today. My name's April. I am the coach and founder of One Light Ahead. And we, as I mentioned earlier, guide light bulb moments for all of our entrepreneurs, executives, and influencers that like to take the time to get to know us as well at onelightahead.com. And we'll be working on all of our diligence, as Tony mentioned, in the future. With that being said, Jason, wrap us up.
I am Jason Safford, founder of Exceptional Results Now and the author of Winning with Exceptionalism, as well as April mentioned, Think Green, The Future is Awesome, and Sun, Sand, and Salt, The Collected Writings of Green Mind. And I want to thank my fabulous co-host, April Ballestero, and our wonderful guest, Tony Hardy. Tony, absolutely fabulous interview. I think I made you squirm more than any other guest, but you brought up the hardest subject. Phenomenal job, in my opinion, of really helping our listeners to understand that the more honest conversations we have with ourselves about money is the more success that we can drive for ourselves in terms of really creating the wealth that we want. So thank you so much for today's episode. I think it was absolutely amazing getting to listen to you and get to know you. And I wish you very, very much success in 2021.
Thank you very much.